Okay, so today I want to tackle the question why some really good players don't believe that live reads or poker tells have value. So part of my mission is to change the poker community's perception of the value of behavior and show everyone that it's an incredible under-recognized edge, and it makes me cringe when a player that I ultimately really respect says tells have no value and behavior is not a big part of the game. Now, not every player has that perception, but among the upper echelons of poker players, there are very few players that are paying attention to behavior at the level that we talk about in Beyond Tells. I also know this because when I work with higher level players, there is a certain level of resistance to paying attention to behavior, and I want to explain exactly why. So first, poker tells have gotten a bad reputation. Google poker tells and the shit you see is absolutely nuts. Most of the information is from non-poker players who are applying really basic and standard themes of behavior to poker, and it just doesn't translate. When was the last time you saw a poker player in a big river spot raise their hands like this as a sign of strength? I mean, don't get me started on all this. There is just so much bullshit out there which creates the concept or idea that behavior is linear at the table, meaning that you should look for X because it means Y. Any player who has been around this game for a long time would read this stuff and trust that it's bullshit, right? Or see that it's bullshit. Also, books and written words are a horrible medium for learning to read behavior because of interpretation. I did a whole video about that. I'll put the link below. Second, players will simply discount what they don't understand. A player is in a spot and shows a decrease in blink rate, next starts pulsing, they are hyper still. What the hell does that mean? What are the mechanics behind that psychological response? Why is this player responding this way? Most high-level players don't focus on that inquiry because they haven't been taught how. This makes most of the behavior at the table noise that is difficult to actually interpret. So it makes perfect sense that it would be relatively ignored because it's just noise. Third, because of the previous two, players don't work on behavior, and the primary reason is it's difficult to establish if your reads are valid or not. The feedback loop isn't reinforced in the way it is if you're to play online. So also, nobody except for us has empirically studied tells. When you take a player who has had played a sample of several hundred hands and compare their movement and behavior from hand to hand, any intelligent person is going to see there's trends and value in behavior. Playing thousands of hours of live poker still won't give you the feedback loops that you get when you analyze video and understand what players actually have in certain spots. Basically, the poker community is filled with bad information with no frameworks or language around reading behavior, which results in people not essentially seeing its value. And what's funny is even some really high-level players who think tells have value are greatly overestimating their ability to read behavior. I have worked with players that would rate themselves a 9 out of 10 when it comes to live reads, but when I actually test them, that number is more like a 5 or a 6. Also, the only reason I made this video is because last week I went to lunch with two high-level players, and the first thing they said to me after hearing about Beyond Tells was like, live reads, really, man? And I was like, Jesus, yes, I dedicated 7 years of my life to this game. Live poker is not played by robots. It's played by people. People fall into reliable patterns. People display how they are thinking about spots and how they feel about spots. I don't care if this is in a 1-2 game or the biggest game in the world. Behavior has a ton of value, and if you are not paying attention to it, you're just giving up a ridiculous edge. All I have to say about that, a little bit of a rant, but it's really important because if I'm trying to change the public perception of behavior in poker, you need to also understand that even the most highest level informed poker players still have issues with applying it. And if we look to those players as the best players, it's important to understand why some of them don't actually apply behavior to their game. So if you haven't already, make sure you check out the Behavioral Edge workshop below. It's the first week of the Beyond Tells training. It's free, and click it. And then also subscribe and and do all of those things that you do.